Hey, good morning. It's William from William Palm Art here. Thought I'd get into a little bit more color mixing today, and with as hot as it is here today in Jersey, I was thinking of going with a little bit of a little bit of a image inspired by the beach. I feel like it's a good beachy day. I feel like I want to be out there, even though it's a little on the hot side. Just grabbing a brush for now, doing some color mixing, and I think also talking about selecting some different blues. So bear with me while I'm playing with my brushes here. I just need one to get some color going. And on the image I'm looking at, for a warm summer day, I really wanted to be right off the bat, like what kind of blue. So if I start with, I know in the last mixing demo, I was showing how to make different types of greens, and now I thought I'd concentrate on showing different types of blue. So if I take a blue like this is ultramarine blue um, by Blocks, and you could see relatively how cool this is. This would be a great picture or great for a cool sky or a cool background around the work. And then the next blue I'm going to share, I'm just going to pop a couple notes here. Ultramarine. You don't have to write the whole thing out if you didn't want to. The other one I'm going to be looking at is another color by Blocks, and that is their Blocks Blue. I think I'm getting the right one from the right thing. And then you're going to notice a difference in the blue. So right off the bat, when I start to decide what blues I'm going to use here, I have to look more for what's the mood. So I'm feeling like this is capturing a sense of more of a summer day. We'll call it Blocks Blue. And then over here, I'm using Holbein. I have Phthalo Blue as a go-to. I'm also going to be playing with Manganese Blue. I think that's the right one by Holbein. And we'll see how these change. So I think when I was playing with my blues, I did run out. This has got a nice kind of sky blue feel to it. We'll just see how this plays. I'm just going to put a little more color in there, make it a little more saturated, letting these fade a little bit on the mix. I'm going to wake up this phthalo blue. That's got a beautiful blue-green to it. I love phthalo in my ocean scenes. It's a pretty good go-to in oils for me too. When I paint sea or any type of water, get a little bit of that in there and it can help. I might even take a look at my Prussian blue, and I'll add a note for this later. That's going to be a little too deep, but you can see the varieties of these different types of blues and put them out here real quick just to say which one would feel more like a summer day. And I also have to think about colors on the beach, like mixing colors from my ocean. So if I took this um, if I took my, this is my Manganese Blue, and if I mix this with a little yellow ochre, it'll get me a kind of greenish tint like that. Let's push this more to the blue. I'm gonna put a little more blue in that mix. Look how that changes. And if I layer this, you're gonna see some. I'm working on the back of this page in this little sketchbook, so they might see a little green showing through. So when I'm playing with these different blues, this is getting a feeling almost like something Dooney. if I take my phthalo blue from Holbein and I try mixing this in and out, I'm trying to think on what color mixes am I going to make. I'll steal a little bit more of that just to push it toward that yellow. What color mixes I'm going to use to plan where the ocean and the sand kind of meet on the beach. I'm probably going to need colors for rocks. A good go-to for me for rocks is usually whatever's in my sky. I'm going to wake up some Dyke Brown right now. I'll put that over here. And let's say I do decide to use my Manganese Blue in here. Let's say I try to use this Manganese Blue and I mix that. That might be a nice color. Let's get that a little stronger, a little more concentrated on the color field there. I probably should label these two. And again, I'm mixing my Holbeins together. A little bit of water in there so that white's showing through. I'm going to touch more blue on this side. And you'll see that that's might be good for any distant rocks or jetties or areas of dark in the scene. So I'm using manganese plus Van Dyke. Over here, I used blocks blue plus yellow ochre. Over here, I played with phthalo. This is Holbein. Sorry about my writing there. Now you can see that my color in here where it looks like it's kind of, I'll put just a touch more in there. I had a lot of water going into this color mix. Make sure I wake up that right blue. There we go. And just show me how that's going to layer too. I'm going to get a little bloom in there. Yeah. Might be good for some wet sandy areas. When I do make the sand in and of itself, an easy go-to for me is grabbing some Sienna, which has a little red note to it. I'm going to do umber too. And a little yellow ochre. You can also use, instead of the burnt sienna, you can try using raw sienna, which actually has a little yellowish note to it. And see how that works for you too. But when I take that, that may be going to wake up my burnt umber here. When I put those together, you can see I'm getting some golden colors that might look almost sandy. I'm going to pull this back just to see, because I'm not going to need a lot of color. And in the daytime, a sand-like color is going to be pretty light. So if I want to take these series of colors here, I am going to turn this out to a page and kind of play with the idea of a nice little quick beach scene. And I'm just going to do a quick study here. Throw a little horizon line on here. I'll grab a pencil. All right. Not halfway, either up higher or down lower, depending on what part of the beach you're really capturing. I'm going for a picture of a beach where my water's about, actually my water's about here. I'm gonna get rid of this real quick. I'm gonna take and tap a kneaded eraser, so one of those clay moldy erasers. And I'm probably going to work from a reference or two in my photographs. They are on the computer. I should find a way to share the screen on this. Get a little perspective here. We've got some wave coming in. Ocean City has lots of rock jetties and pipes going out. Might make the jetty just a hair bigger. In this little clump area, there's a bunch of surfers. There's some wet sand coming in about here. And I do have a sky that almost looks like this manganese blue. So I'm going to wake this up. And on this sketch, I'm working wet and dry. Now I'm just going to glisten this paper just a little bit. Play initially with some brushes that are going to get you some good motion. This is probably even too small for what I want to do right this second. I'm going to get his big brother out real quick. I'm using some Escoda quill brushes here. Gonna wake up some manganese blue and just come in here and give a nice quick broad stroke. I'm gonna let this gradate a little bit so it's gonna get lighter as it comes down to the ground. Maybe not that light. I'm gonna try not to overwork this in the sketch here. Feel like I'm a little puddly. And there's a couple clouds in that sky, and I could lift these out with a brush or pull them back a little bit with the paper towel. Whee! I just got some interesting shape right there, but that's okay. I'm gonna come in, pull this back a little bit. My Arteza sketch paper here is being funny. I feel like that's a sizing thing right there already. And I'm gonna come in, and I like to get, even though this water and my reference is pretty green, so I'm going to check out, it's about the tone of my phthalo. So I'm going to pull some phthalo here and my yellow ochre mix. I'm going to kind of pre-mix this. I'm going to start to get some, oh, that's a little too green. I'll go a little bluer on that mix. All right, I'm going to start to get some of my initial color in here. And there's a couple of wave caps that I am painting over. I'm just going to lift these out. Hopefully with a brush, as long as the paint does its job. Although I feel like I'm actually on the back of this one. Yeah, I'm getting some weird gradations in here. To get the idea of the waves going, I am gonna steal some more of this phthalo. Got a little dot of it right there in my palette too. And I'll come in and start to show off some of the areas. That's too thin. Where I want my color to be a little deeper. Hopefully more horizons dry enough that it won't just bleed in. You'll see where the color's bleeding. It's where the paper's too wet, so I'm just gonna ring that in. I am going to dull this with a little bit of Sienna. I'm just throwing that Sienna right in the mix, and it's making a brown kind of like that. That's gonna be nice for some wet sandish color, just in this quick sketch. I'm going full steam ahead on this, and honestly, if just for the demo, just to get the start of this going, I think I'm on the back of the paper here. I thought I was on the back before. My paper's not playing right. Just trying to work it through. I'm going to start just so I know where this is. I have a little bit thick on here. It's okay if it hits the water. There's a slight reflection under these little rocks. That's going to bleed out a little bit at first, especially if the watercolor is really thin. But I'm just going to let that set up for a minute. Come over, throw a color of the sand down. And just looking at my sand and showing you that that's going to be way too dark. So I am going to dull that with a touch of brown. And maybe pick up some of the blue from my sky. Lots and lots of water in here. And you can see how this is fighting with me. Yeah. I'm actually going to redo this a little bit, but you can see the idea of the water starting to come to life in the scene. And, yeah, I think I'm on the back of the paper. To see if I can redirect some of this. I do have some bleed. I don't want the bleed, so I am just going to work this around and hope that, and this is a tad bit wet, but I'm using the paint almost at a tube consistency. I'm gonna grab some darker blues. There's some wave action going on back here. Just enough. Let some of that show through. Getting a little bleed into. Gonna let some of this show through. Pull that back. It's on the dark side. Just spray that around with some water. I'm gonna mix this brown with the blues to get me some nice darks. And again, almost tube like consistency. I want it to hold up to the water that's already here. And I'm hoping that this will start this little pattern. When you start to paint any type of ocean, you kind of want to look at the patterns. I'm actually going to give this a wash of my Manganese Blue in here. This is where the sky is reflecting in the water. See if I can make some of these sand piles. Put a little touch of blue in there. Hopefully it'll gray it up. Spread that around with some water. Yep, that's the back of my paper. I should have stopped this already. But mistakes and all, I promise to keep going on these videos. I'll be redoing this a lot more on purpose. The kind of wet sand color in here. Got mixtures of phthalo blue and burnt umber. Probably go. I don't want to go too dark, because every time I layer this, it's going to get darker. This will start to come together. Now that back of the page bleed, where there's no sizing on the paper, you can see the water's not doing much here. Missed that a little bit. Now I am at the, let's just see what happens here. One thing I don't like about this Arteza sketch pad is the back of the paper is kind of hard to work on if you make the same mistake. Hopefully this is dry enough for me to play with a little definition toward the front. Got a kind of bluey green mud looking color trickling up in here. A little edge coming right along here. Trying to keep my paint pretty thick so it doesn't bleed or bloom or flower. Get a little pull off of here. Hopefully it makes kind of a almost crest-like shape. Hopefully this is dry enough to give some defining coat. Again, I'm just sketching this in, making these little rock-like marks. Might catch a little light. Some of these little wooden pieces sticking up in here. I think that's getting almost the essence of a rock pile. I should look at my reference just a hair bit more. I'm kind of just looking at my painting right now. Sometimes I don't mind when a painting kind of takes off like this, even though some of this is killing me. I am giving a little more definition on the waves. Put a couple little patterns here. These shadows, you can see how dramatic these grays can look in these areas. How that paper really did wrong. I'm still going to do this anyway. It's just a study, it's just a sketch. If I screw up here, I'm not going to lose too much sleep. I'm leaning a little more toward my blue mix in here. I can gray some of this down. That needs some water on it. I'm a bit dark over here, but I can't really. I could try to lift it out, but the paper's gonna fight me, I think. You see how it's just sticking in there. So now I have to make that work. I think if I bring a little bit more in here, I think I'll warm that up with a little Sienna. My sand's just a little on the dark side. I could use some more water in it, at least for this one. But that's okay. I let this turn into an experiment. Look at that, got a nice little water feel here. Nice summery day. Even a sense of weird photograph effect in my work. If this dries enough, I guess I can try to throw some of the people on the beach into the sketch. It's still a tad bit dark. There is a couple of surfers with their heads sticking out. One dude here. I was up on the boardwalk when I shot these photos. Kind of splashing his way in, and another little person in there. These little dots for people way far away. It doesn't take much. If I had somebody just a hair closer, might be more darker colors. So over here is a dude, looks like he's wearing blue. I might throw some ultramarine in this one. And he's kind of walking over here. This takes some guts to play with. I'm probably using a little wet on the page. A couple of little red and pink bathing suit. I could tell a little reflection there. Little head there and there. Color's just a hair. Just a down. There's a. I think we'll just leave it at that for a minute. It'll probably dry for me to have better control here anyway. Couple shadows. It's a little bucket right about there. That's about it for now. I'm fighting with the paper and getting a little frustrated on this one. Anyway, sorry about turning that in. In that study, I just wanted to very quickly how these colors can become a bit of a oceanic feel to them. Again, this is just a quick study sketch. I'm gonna do this again a lot more on purpose in the next one. All right, thanks for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. If you do like this, let me know. Let me know how you like the video. Let me know if it's any help. Okay, have a good one.